for the extradition of Mr. Apollo Kibuloy, I respectfully urge the Committee on Justice to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on this matter.
To me, as I said, at this point in time, there's no somewhat urgency for us to conduct an inquiry on this issue. I do not have any doubt that the existing laws on extradition will be followed by the concerned agencies. So what will this committee do at this point in time when we have a lot of urgent matters that the committee should pay attention to?
It is the position of the chair that it is but proper that the committee takes jurisdiction over the request of the Honorable Percy Sardanya with respect to the conduct of motu proprio inquiry in aid of legislation with regards to the extradition of Pastor Apollo Kibuloy.
Well, with respect to that point, but as far as the procedure of how the Apo Kibuloy is to be extradited, as I said, at this point in time, it's already covered by our treaty and existing laws. But our point is to somewhat revisit and see how we can improve action to improve our extradition treaty or on this point. Then I agree on that point, not necessarily connected with the extradition of Kibuloy, because to me, I am sure the concerned agencies will be somewhat knowledgeable to implement our existing laws on this point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
There is now before the committee a letter signed by the Honorable Congressman Percival Sendanya requesting the Committee on Justice to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported request of the United States government on the extradition of Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy. May I request for a copy of the letter? Please let the chair read the letter. Chairperson, Committee on Justice, Dear Madam Chair, this is dated August 23, 2025. In light of the reported request of the United States government for the extradition of Mr. Apollo Kibuloy, I respectfully urge the Committee on Justice to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on this matter. There is an overwhelming public interest and concern over the process by which extradition requests are received, evaluated, and acted upon. It is imperative that Congress, through your committee, provide a forum where concerned agencies may clarify the status of the present request, explain the legal and procedural steps involved, and identify any gaps or ambiguities in our existing laws and treaties. This inquiry will not only help ensure transparency, fairness, and adherence to our international obligations, but also allow Congress to determine whether remedial or supplemental legislation is necessary to strengthen the country's extradition framework. Thank you for your attention to this request. Respectfully signed by the Honorable Percival Sendanya. May I direct the committee secretary to provide the members with a copy of this letter. With regards to this request of the Honorable Percy Sardanya that a motu proprio inquiry in aid of legislation be conducted on the extradition of Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, we are opening the floor for the comments of our committee members. The Honorable Joel Chua is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I only have two issues with respect to the extradition of Mr. Apollo Kibuloy. My first question, Madam Chair, is that will extradition be considered by the requesting party while there are still pending cases against Mr. Kibuloy in the Philippines?
with the limited knowledge of the chair, upon reading of the treaty between the United States and the Philippines, it appears that even when there is pending cases in the requested party, the requesting party can initiate an extradition process in the Philippines. Congressman Chua?
Thank you. My second question is with respect to the timeline, Madam Chair. The timeline between the receipt by the Department of Foreign Affairs of the requested extradition of Mr. Apollo Kibuloy and the transmittal to the Department of Justice, and the timeline from the receipt by the DOJ to the filing of the petition for extradition.
For the guidance of all the members, there are two significant laws which must be considered in the discussion of this extradition. One is the treaty that was entered into by the United States government and the Philippine government back in 1994. The other one is PD 1069, which is the Philippine extradition law passed by former President Marcos Sr. back in 1977. If I will be basing my answer to the question of the Honorable Chua, in both laws, it is silent with respect to the timeline between the receipt of extradition by the DFA to its transmittal to DOJ, in the same way that it is silent with respect to timeline from the transmittal to DOJ to the filing of petition for extradition with the regional trial court. The Honorable Vice Chair Domogan is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With all due respect to, of course, our colleague who made this letter, at this point in time, I do not know if it is proper for this committee to take jurisdiction over this issue when these are covered by our treaty between the government and the United States and, of course, existing laws of the Philippines. I do not have any doubt that the existing laws on extradition will be followed by the concerned agencies. So what will this committee do at this point in time when we have a lot of urgent matters that the committee should pay attention to? To me, as I said, at this point in time, there's no somewhat urgency for us to conduct an inquiry on this issue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honorable Vice Chair Keith Flores is recognized.
Madam Chair, well, it is true the comments made by Congressman Domogan. I also agree with some of it. No? But I also would like to know din na marami pa kasing questions when it comes to extradition. Na it's not really much of a siguro dinidiscuss na topic even in our jurisprudence. No? So, example lang po, I have a question like, kung may request for extradition ba, who will have jurisdiction? Is it the court that's hearing the case where the person who is requested to be extradited? Or is it another RTC court? No? These are things na siguro by taking it up in our committee, we could help define. No? We could help siguro refine. Kasi as the chairperson nga mentioned, it's based on a law that's made in 1977. No? So revisiting it would not necessarily mean that we are infringing on any of the activities being undertaken by the courts. No? It's determining what can be done in the future, not in the present case of Pastor Kibuloy. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other member who wish to comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, may I be recognized?
The Honorable Chel Jokno is recognized.
First of all, may I put on record that I fully support the request of Representative Sendanya. Just for the information of the Chair and the members, there is an article in the Philippine-U.S. Extradition Treaty that provides for what is known as temporary surrender. This refers to a situation where the person subject of extradition has a pending case or cases in the Philippines, but is being extradited to face cases also in the United States. And as based on what I recall of that the provision, the person subject of extradition may be brought to the United States to face the cases there, and then returned to the Philippines after to continue with the cases that are pending here. Before the hearing today, I inquired as to the status of the cases pending in the Philippines, and I was informed that most, if not all, of the victims have already testified. Tuloy pa po ang trial. The defense has not yet proceeded with its evidence, but given that situation, I think it would not be a problem for us insofar as the victims here, since they have already testified. I would also agree with the observation made by the Honorable Chair that perhaps we could look back at the presidential decree because it does not provide for specific timelines. At the same time, we may want to know from the judiciary if there are specific rules that govern the periods for which to decide extradition cases. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, the Honorable Jokno.
Madam Chair,
Honorable Flores is recognized.
also in relation to what Congressman Jokno just mentioned, yung temporary surrender tsaka deferred surrender, even in the laws on the PD, it does not really state kung sino, who will make the determination po. And that's why I think that there is actually a need to look into the old PD. Now, it's not necessarily in the context of Pastor Kibuloy, because it's going to be moving forward now with what we can do in probable amendments to this particular presidential decree. Kasi nga po, let's say, who chooses whether it's temporary surrender or deferred surrender? Other than the timeline, no? So, sino ang mag-decide on that? The PD does not say so, no? So, as far as I've yung sa nabasa ko, no? So, again, siguro tama lang din po na bisitahin natin ulit, no? And revisit it and discuss it again in the form of an inquiry, no? In aid of legislation para makorek din natin itong gaps that are existing in the current PD po.
Any other member? Of course, we conform to the insights and positions which were shared by the Honorable Jokno, the Honorable Chua, the Honorable Kit Flores, and we consider as well the sentiment of the Honorable Domogan. But with regards to the issue of urgency and propriety that was raised by the Honorable Vice Chair Domogan, I wish to respond that it is within the jurisdiction and purview of the Committee on Justice to revisit our extradition law by way of an inquiry in aid of legislation, considering that we are dealing with the consequences of the treaty that was entered into by the Philippine government with the U.S. government, and the same pertains to the administration of justice and judiciary. At the very least, with the surrender or extradition of the extraditee, the administration of justice, which we are facilitating in our country, will somehow be affected. So, it is the position of the chair that it is but proper that the committee takes jurisdiction over the request of the Honorable Percy Sardanya with respect to the conduct of motu proprio inquiry in aid of legislation with regards to the extradition of Pastor Apollo Kibuloy. The Honorable Vice Chair Domogan is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, with respect to that point, but as far as the procedure of how the Apo Kibuloy is to be extradited, as I said, at this point in time, it's already covered by our treaty and existing laws. But if it's, our point is to somewhat revisit and see how we can improve or the filing of a proper action to improve our extradition treaty, or on this point, then I agree on that point. Not necessarily connected with the extradition of Kibuloy, because to me, I am sure the concerned agencies will be somewhat knowledgeable to implement our existing laws on this point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
To respond, Vice Chair Domogan, our discussion of the reported request of the United States government for the extradition of Pastor Apollo Kibuloy will just be incidental to our mandate, which is legislation. Let us be reminded that the request of our colleague, the Honorable Sendanya, is a motu proprio inquiry in aid of legislation. So, for the record, I wish to state, while he mentions about the extradition of Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, the same will just be incidental because our ultimate objective is to respond to our mandate, which is to legislate. With that, I believe that the concern of the Vice Chair Domogan has been addressed, and for some members who made their manifestations already, it seems that we are in the same direction about the power of the Congress to conduct motu proprio inquiry in aid of legislation, of course, upon the approval of the majority of the members present and with the conformity of the Committee on Rules. Any other member who would like to comment?